Well, two of them. She'll do Ness and Portage Avenue.
Good morning. I would like to call this meeting to order. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Treaty 1 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. My name is Carrie Linklater. I'm your chairperson today. To my immediate left is Mr. Max Goldak, and my far left is Ms. Lynn Nesbitt. We are joined today by the City Assessor Merrick Froelich and Svetlana Schabel. Our secretary is Kelsey Haas. We'll be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that applicants or the assessor make at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The board is appointed annually by City Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the matters to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the order by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record.
Please state your full name.
Merrick Froelich.
And do you swear that the evidence you'll present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Please state your full name.
Svetlana Schabel.
And do you swear that the evidence you'll present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Please state your full name.
Marvin Croak.
And do you swear any evidence you'll present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, distribute?
Yeah.
Good morning, Mr. Crowe.
Good morning.
Oh, great.
Whenever you're ready.
Thank you. File number 174889 for the roll year 2018. Address is 1775 Portage Avenue, and business ID number is 4947. For this property, you have a square foot area of 4,966 with a total ARV of 65,580, which works out to 1321 plus occupancy taxes. Under the subject bid area, we're showing an area of 4,966, a base RV of 55,520, using an average market rent of $11.18 for the subject property. Including occupancy costs, we come up with 65,580. There is a subject lease in place for this building, but it is owner occupied,
Yes,
it's under
it is.
my understanding. And these are the comparable rents that we have. So there's two components of this building. There's a retail component and a shop component. So this is a blended rent for both of them. So for the retail component, I took 5 comparables that were on Portage Avenue or just in the West End. So my comparable number 1 was a 5-year lease at $19.23. I have another one at $12, and another one at my number 3 is $15.50. These are smaller spaces, slightly smaller spaces than the subject property. Comparable number 4 is a much newer building, and there's a 10-year lease in place there, and that's twice the size, so it is superior to the subject property. And I have another comparable on Erin, which is a 6-year lease at 2,784 square feet at $14.87. Those comparables here are the retail component of it, and I am asking for the assessment to be confirmed. On the second page, what I've done is, because the building consists of a vehicle service garage area, so I took some comparables that were vehicle service garages that were on Portage Avenue or nearby. My first comparable is on 951 Portage Avenue. Older building as well, 1969, 3,300 square feet at $10.75. I got a building on King Edward, 5-year lease, also VSG, 1977, at $8.15. Comparable number 3 at 870 Portage Avenue, also a vehicle service garage, at 5,000 square feet at $13.20. Comparable number 4 at 3020 Portage Avenue, built in 1972, 5,503 square feet at $11.99. And I repeated this one as well, another one on the same one on Erin that I had on the front page, which is $14.87. Based on my comparables, an overall blended rate of $11.18 for the rental area, and with occupancy cost of $13.21, comes up with an ARV value of $65,580, and which is what I'm asking for it to be confirmed. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any questions of the assessor?
No, I don't.
Okay. Lynn, did you have questions?
Yeah, I just would like some, because you talked about 2 components.
Yeah.
Could you just tell me again, what was the square foot of the retail component and the ARV?
Okay.
Yeah.
And I get this information because we have it as one unit, but Marv and I had spoken on the phone. And
Okay.
actually, if you see it on Marv's brief here, he actually does a great job of explaining it.
Okay.
He has a retail component of $25.60 and the shop garage of $22.78.
Okay, and then your rates on those?
The
Wait,
rate,
the
well, we
way
just
you
have one
You
blended
have
rate
one-
of $11.18.
So you didn't split it out?
No, we did not.
So the blended rate of the entire property,
Yeah.
you've compared to just the retail component and just the garage?
We've combined them,
Okay.
and that's why I brought 2 comparables here to show the range. So the retail component tends to be a bit higher. The service garage component is a bit lower. So
Okay.
overall, I feel comfortable with $11.18 that we provided here as a total ARV for the space. And my comparables support that.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Thank you. Max?
Does this had a appeal for quantum?
It wasn't for 2018, a realty appeal.
Thank you, that's all.
Did you have a chance to visit the property?
No, I've driven by it. It is an older building, built in 1958. And so I do acknowledge that, and, but I haven't inspected it.
Can you tell me the last time it was inspected?
I did not have the opportunity to, I don't know, Carrie. I don't even know when was the last time it was appealed.
It never was, at least not since I've owned it.
Okay,
I've just paid.
okay.
And can you just tell me your comparisons that you have?
Yep.
What sort of businesses they are? Are they,
one of them's a coffee shop, one of the, like for the retail component, one of them's a coffee shop, one of them's a pharmacy.
Sorry, can you identify which
Yeah,
ones?
comparable number one is a coffee shop. Comparable number two, it says Advantage Conditioning. So I'm not too sure what that actually does. It's actually right beside it, and I actually got a picture of it right here. Just because I didn't know the building.
Okay.
Okay.
Advantage Conditioning, they just train athletes.
Okay, is it just for like a gym? Okay.
It's basically a gym.
Okay.
Okay.
Did you want
Thank
to?
Can-
No, I've been in that,
Thanks, Mark.
been there for a long time.
Yeah.
And if you wish to continue.
Number three is a laundromat, which is just like on a strip mall, just on the other side of a ferry. 2305, this is a much new building and a higher rent, and that's a PharmaSafe or Pharma Plus.
So that's a drugstore.
Yeah, the drugstore, yeah. And the 1577 Erin, that's car rental. It's a Hertz car.
Thank you.
Did you want me to go through the other ones on the service garages?
Sure. That'd be great, thank you.
Okay. Number one's called No Name Auto. Vehicle service garage, and these are all service garage related. Number two is King's Truck and Trailer. Three is a Minute Muffler. And four is a Fountain Tire. And number five is the same as we had before.
I'm assuming all of these have their garages.
They're all
They-
vehicle service,
But they
yeah.
also have retail. They have a retail component?
No, well, small office sort of kiosk to accept the customers,
Okay.
right? But usually, the overall square footage of that is probably a couple hundred square feet at most. Well, it all depends, because some of them have lounges and that sort of stuff, right?
Well,
Like the Fountain Tire would,
Fountain, that's what I'm thinking.
yeah, the Fountain Tire would be a bit
tires.
larger.
Right. And sometimes they have the tires on display and,
Yeah, it's,
yes, okay. Thank you. That's all my questions.
thank you.
Mr. Kraut, if you'd like to proceed with your presentation.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, first, I just want to say thanks for saying that. I didn't realize that everything is so formal. I've never attended this type of a meeting before. I just thought it was time that I maybe stood up and described what we do, and the fact that we have been in the St. James area since 1983. And I'm sure you checked, but we've paid our taxes every year on time, and intend to continue paying. And I just thought it was time that, you know, we sat down and maybe had a discussion about what's fair and equitable for an independent businessman in Winnipeg. Some of the comparables are national chains, and again, being independent, they don't have quite the same advertising budget to support the higher rents. We are community-based. We do have a lot of local customers in the area, and I do employ a number of highly skilled technicians, and they are paid comparable to what the industry standards, you know, do have. So I thought I would bring that up as well. Second thing I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention here is I bought the building a number of years ago, and it is basically designed as an ability to pay. I do have some tenants upstairs as well, and I didn't bring what they pay, but I can describe it to you. I believe I did send financial statements along with the appeal, and I just didn't think it was appropriate to bring them with me at this time. Again, I bought the building not as a rental property, but as a owner-operator so that I could control my own destiny. I have been in business in this particular location, as you know, for a number of years, and I have no issues with paying what is fair and equitable. So I did have a realtor in the area, go through what would be fair and equitable, and brought those results with me. And again, I tried to split up the retail end of things and the garage end of things, because two are entirely different entities. And we do a lot of retail parts through the front of the shop and in the 2,500 square foot range. And then the shop portion of almost 2,300 square feet is designed strictly for repair and maintenance of vehicles. Now, retail, I understand, is an area that should be paid a little more, and that's why when Mr. Bloomberg went through this for me, the square foot rent would have been between 10 and 14, so I kind of went to a $12 mid-range. And for the shop area, a garage area, 6 to 10 was what he came up with, and we just took the mid-range average as 8, and that ends up being about approximately $48,000 per year combined. And I believe that's what we're paying now, or at $4,000 a month triple net. That's, basically, I just thought I would make it plain and simple and not bring, any other issues in.
Thank you.
I have no questions. Barb and I had a good conversation.
Yes.
He understood my position, I understand his position, and we're just here to let you guys decide.
Okay, thank you.
Lynn? Just trying to understand your numbers.
Sure.
So I see that you've calculated at the retail store 60 square feet using $12 to arrive at the $337.20.
Yes.
What's the CAM?
I'm sorry?
What's CAM?
CAM?
What's plus CAM mean?
That would have been something Mr. Bloomberg came up. I have no idea what. I just let him do this independently, and this is, I have no idea what CAM means.
Okay. And are these rates, the reassessment year is based on 2016 market values? Are these 2016 market values?
These are current, based on last week,
Okay.
February 28th.
Okay, thank you, that's my questions.
Thanks.
This is right on 40th Avenue, just past the new police fire station.
Oh, the fire station, yes.
Yeah.
It's about 3 blocks west.
Yeah. West here?
West of the fire station, yes.
Yeah,
Right on the
okay.
corner of Portage and Berry.
Oh, okay, yeah, I call it a speed shop.
Okay.
Is that it?
Well, we do full service.
Yeah.
So, I mean, over the number of years, yes, we kind of catered to the specialty, but it's just a full-service shop.
Yeah, okay, I understand.
And the shop is in behind of the retail sector, so unfortunately, the way the building was designed in the 50s, I believe that building was built in 55 as a Firestone station. Doesn't really meet the current criteria of having your shop in front, so, the consumer understands exactly what you do. So it's been an ongoing battle, but do the best we can. And when you say the shop is an old building, again, not that I'm trying to, speak highly of us, but I have to admit, we do maintain that building very well. So, it's in nice shape.
Okay, that's all the questions.
Thank you. Mr. Crowe, is the shop and the retail portion, they're both 1958?
Yes.
Okay, and you purchased it, you said in 83?
My partner bought the building in 83, and I bought him out, it would probably be mid-90s.
Okay. And have you made any improvements to the building, other than regular maintenance?
Just regular maintenance.
Okay, thank you.
When you say improvements, well, there's new heating in it, and try to keep it in tip-top shape.
Thank you. I'm going to redirect to you,
Yep,
Mr. Froelich.
for sure.
This coffee shop, for instance, on 2037
Yep.
Portage,
Yep.
can you tell me what it is? Do you have a name?
That's right across the Savoy Park. It's Joe's
Oh,
coffee
yeah,
shop.
okay. Can you tell me the age of some of these buildings? on
You know
your
what, I don't
list?
have access to that information right now. They are newer buildings, and like with some of them, they are higher rents, you know.
Mhm. Okay. Thank you very much for coming today, Mr. Crowe. Leave it with us.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, did you want to
No,
have a
I'm good.
summation?
No, Marv and I had a good conversation. There's no need to go beyond that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll just add on to this. Marv, he does fill out the income and expense mailer. He has their gross rents for small sizes and other aspects of the building, and they're $500, so he's not getting a lot of money for those. I just wanted to share that with you guys.
All right.
Yep,
Thank you.
no problem.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
I looked around and the room was empty.
Good morning, Mr. Burke.
Good morning. Bradford Sky Forest.
And do you swear that the evidence you'll present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
We're going to go to 747.
I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Push that in. Just for clarification, we are seeking confirmation of two of the properties, and I can identify them for you if you'd like. We're accepting recommendations on three, and I believe that leaves one in dispute. I stand to be corrected.
Yeah.
That's
That seems right, yeah.
so. The one that will be in dispute is 120 King Edward.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear you.
120 King Edward.
Mm-hmm. That has the non-co-op on it.
Yeah, we'll be disputing that as well.
Okay.
We're looking for confirmation on 747 Pembina.
Okay.
Actually,
So, you know
Brad,
what?
can we actually go
We're
through the
just going to
process?
go through
Okay.
them all.
I just- Yeah, I was
Just
just
to
trying to
make
expedite, so.
Thank you.
Bear with me. Not the way yet.
I'm just gonna go in order of the docket.
Okay, and I've got these.
Paper.
That's all?
I hope so.
Yeah, okay.
Go ahead.
For file number 175516. For roll year 2018, we have,
If I might, on 747 Pembina, we're just looking for the 54 one.
Yes, but he still has to read
I
the
still have to go.
information.
Fair enough.
That's the
We're just trying to
procedures.
expedite.
yeah,
Thank you.
sorry, Brad. 2018, 747 Pembina Highway. Business ID number is 51330. We're asking for the assessment to confirm at $70,560, and we have information here that the applicant's gonna ask for a 54-1.
Bergstrom?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay. So just confirming that it's a
Just-
54-1?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and you have
Yeah, I know.
in front of you as well.
Would you like to proceed?
Yep. File number 175288. For roll year 2018, address is 715 Pembina Highway. Business ID number is 52812. We have a total assessed value of $96,480. And it's my understanding that Mr. Boardroom is recommending a 54-1 on this property, is that correct?
We are seeking a 54-1 confirmation.
Sorry, I'm just gonna ask Lynn or Pat, do you have any questions?
I have no questions.
Whenever you're ready.
Yep. File number 175410. For 2018 roll year, address number 999 Aaron Street. Business ID number is 19921. We have a total ARV of 47,280 of an area of 5,400 square feet, an overall blended rate of $8.76. This property was on appeal for the 2018 period, and I'd like to make a recommendation to change the assessed value to $43,380.
Mr. Bergstrom, you're accepting that value?
We're not opposing it.
For the next two properties, my colleague Svetlana will be reading them out for us.
Whenever you're ready.
File number 17-5650 for assessment roll 2018, address 1626 Ness Avenue, business ID number 43664, business name Safeway Gas Bar. The current assessed value $75,000. Total area of gas station 450 square feet. Overall ARV per square feet 166.67 cents. It's include occupation cost $2.35 and base rent 164.35 cents. We can see subject lease information. We can see lease agreement. And from 2008 for 11 years, but it is a land lease, doesn't include the value improvements. So our recommendation, reduce business assessment value to 52,800, base rent 150, based on 2018 realty decision.
Thank you.
Not opposing.
And whenever you're ready.
Okay. File number 17-5518, assess years 2018, address 3755 Portridge Avenue, business ID number 29032. Current assessed value 85,200 for a total area of 375 square feet. Overall, ARV per square feet, $27.71. It includes occupation cost, $2.35. And we have two premise split.
What
First
is,
premise $28 base rent and second premise $8.
one of them's a convenience store and the other one's a car wash.
Thank you.
Our recommendation based on 2018 realty decision, reduce the value to $74,028 with basic rent of $21.80.
Not opposing.
Thank you.
And our last one?
Is 120 King Edward Street. File number 175426. Business ID number is 42947. And it's the Boyd Auto Body and Glass. We have a total ARV value of 158,520, using a square foot area of
Do you wanna look at the, do you wanna do the non-co-op?
oh,
first?
sorry, I apologize.
No worries.
Sorry, Gary. So on page 2 of my brief, I'm showing a copy of the 2018 realty appeal that had taken place on November 28, 2017. At that time, we had asked for non-compliance. And the recommendation was the assessor requests that the burden of proof be placed on the applicant for non-cooperation, section 53(3)(b) of the Manitoba Municipal Act, Assessment Act. And if reduction in the assessment is ordered, that would be followed by section 54(3)(2) of the MAA. Page 3 shows the board decision that had taken place with regards to this property, with the panel members listed and the owner and the taxable party. And just reading the hearing here, it says the panel hereby orders as follows, that the request of the assessor for the application of 53(3) and 54(3.2) of the Municipal Assessment Act be allowed. In rendering its decision, the panel placed the burden of proof on the applicant and directs that the following revision as per 53(3). Page 4, that the 2018 realty assessment be confirmed, and that in accordance with subsection 54(1) of the Municipal Assessment Act, SM 1989-90, C24-CAP, period M226, there will be no change in the 2018 realty assessment, total assessed value. And this decision was based on the applicant's evidence. So the 2018 realty value was confirmed, and the market rent that we're presenting today is the same market rent that was presented at that hearing. Page 5 is the last page of the brief. Page 6 shows our non-compliance procedures that had taken place. So page 6 shows the second letter that had sent out, the registered letter that had gone. Page 7 shows the signed copy of it. Page 8 shows the second letter that had taken place on June 3rd, 2016. The first letter would have gone out in April of 2016 for the 2015 assessment. And that concludes my application for non-compliance for the business assessment.
Okay. Okay, sorry, can I just point out on page 8?
Yep, for sure.
You've got the private user ID there. That should be removed.
Okay. Yeah, I see that now, sorry.
No, no French, no. Thank you. Mr. Borgstrom, do you have any questions?
I do. The basis of your request for the imposition of section 54(3.2) in this matter, where the documentation in support of that is contained on your pages 6, 7, and 8.
That's correct.
Now, you'll agree with me that the owner of this property and the occupant of this property are two independent, separate parties?
That's what's listed on the business name of the owners, that there's two different groups.
And so you'll agree with me that Boyd is a third party from the owner?
That is true.
Okay. Now, in terms of the realty assessment request, that was in fact addressed to the owner, correct? And if we look at the assessment, and I see we don't have an assessment notice here, do you know if a request was ever sent, a request for information was ever sent to Boyd?
I do not know that.
Would it be fair to say that a request was not sent to Boyd, given?
Well, usually,
given
we just send it
typical-
to the owner of the building.
Yes. And in terms of business assessments, the premise is assessed in the name of the business occupant,
That is correct.
not the owner of the
Yeah.
property. You would agree with me, would you not, that no request was ever sent to Boyd?
It was only sent to the owner.
Those are my questions.
Thank you.
Lynn? I have no questions.
This was brought up for the quantum.
Yes.
You're now asking again, is that not double jeopardy?
Well, it's about being consistency in the process, right? We can't create good appraisals if we don't have good information. And if, we want to be consistent in our process. And so if we don't have good market rents to establish models, then we want to make sure that the penalty exists because it's there for a reason. And so,
You used it to come up with a quantum value for this property.
yeah,
And you use the quantum value to do your business taxes
Yeah.
with. So if, once you've done it there, now you're asking again, is that not double jeopardy?
you may believe so, we're just trying to be consistent in our process of getting good information. So, and it is, because what happens is because of the fact that if we're not, we're rewarding, if everyone has the attitude of not providing income and expense mailer information, our ability to produce a good assessment roll will be impacted. So the penalty exists for a reason. And so if a person fails to do it on realty, why should they benefit by not being able to, from a business assessment perspective? Because the issue's still the same. If we don't get good market rents or we don't get the information from the property owners, we're never able to do that. So you may say it's double jeopardy, but we're being consistent because we believe this is the correct way to approach it because the legislation exists for a reason. Under 16-1, we have information to obtain information on income and expense mailers, on direct sales comparison approach, and for permit values. So to charge one and not charge the other, you're not being consistent. And our approach here is that I'm being consistent in asking for non-compliance. And I'm following the board decision that had taken place.
Okay.
That's it? So, so Pension Fund Realty Limited,
Yes.
the address on Broadway.
Yeah.
This is Boyd Auto Body? I'm just trying to
There-
figure out,
See, because it's my understanding, and Brad would know this more than I would, isn't, what's the terminology for the type of company? Because I know this group is traded, I think they're linked, and they're one and the same, it's my belief.
okay, so how about this?
Okay.
We'll let Mr. Borgstrom present,
Yep.
and I may be redirecting
Yeah,
to
for
you.
sure, it's, because I remember, it's not, there's a terminology
Well, it's a
for.
publicly traded company.
It's a publicly
as far as
traded
I know.
it's a publicly traded company, but I think they're linked with each other, so it's not truly, because if it was a good lease, I'm not too sure.
Okay. Mr. Borgstrom?
I do have some rebuttal.
Yeah.
And it's very straightforward. And I noticed that the assessor has not included in his brief
Thank you.
the applicable sections of the Municipal Assessment Act, which provide it's more than guidance, it's requirements under this act. So if we look at, and I didn't number the pages other than the numbering within the act, so if we look at the bottom of each page in the middle, I'm gonna first start at second page in bottom numbered page 32. And section 16.1 talks about the assessor able to request information, that an assessor may request that a person, including a Crown agency or Crown corporation who owns, uses, or occupies assessable property, provide to the assessor information or documentation that relates or might relate to, or that affects or might affect the value of the property being assessed, or that is or might be relevant to assessment of the property, which, without limiting the generality of the foregoing, may include information for each year since the previous general assessment respecting, and it goes on to talk about sales, construction, and income expenses. The assessor has already admitted in cross-examination that no such request was ever sent to Boyd Auto Group. They are not related corporations. Pension Fund Realty is is a separate, completely independent corporation. Boyd Auto Body, again, as the assessor acknowledged in cross-examination, is an independent third party, and I'm here telling you under oath that this is not a related corporation to pension fund. The only income and expense questionnaire that was sent out to Pension Fund Realty. No such income and expense questionnaire was ever sent out to Boyd, and I can tell you that I checked the 2018 business assessment notice. It was actually mailed to 120 King Edward Street. So it was never sent. They have a number of locations in the city, we're all aware of that. In this particular case, the 2018 business assessment notice for this property was actually mailed to the address at 120 King Edward. I don't and I won't address the issue raised about the double penalty. I would agree that that would be the case in any instance. However, in this case, there was no request for information sent to Boyd Auto Body. Therefore, there can be no penalty applied on the business assessment aspect of this property. So we don't need to go any further or examine it any further. And on that basis, the assessor's request should be denied. The assessor also alluded to not receiving the income and expense questionnaire and their gain or would gain the benefit on the realty, and it would be unfair for them to gain the benefit on the business assessment. Well, that's just not the case. The business is assessed separately. It's in a separate name, independent, arm's length, and no such request was ever sent, and so they're gaining no advantage. They're simply here seeking the hearing on the basis of the evidence presented. And so given that there was no request for the information, there is no authority for the granting of section 54.3.2 in this case. We've attached all of those relevant sections. I know you're all familiar with them, so I won't go over each and every one of them. But if you actually look at the wording of section 54.3.2, and it's the last page of our handout, it says, where a person fails to comply with a request for information or documentation under clause 16.1c, the board or panel shall specify in its order that any reduction in the assessed value of the person's property is not to take effect until the year following the thereof. Boyd did not fail to comply. There was no questionnaire ever sent to him. The assessor has acknowledged as much, and so we're asking the board to simply deny the assessor's request. Thank you.
Questions?
I don't have any because I understand where Mr. Borgstrom's coming from on this matter, because it was the owner and whatnot. And it's due to, I understand his position with regards to this, because clearly there's a situation, there's a different relationship between the property owner and the tenant who locates the space. So I understand where Mr. Borgstrom's coming from, so I have no questions.
Okay, thank you. Lynn, no questions? Mr. Borgstrom, did you state then that the business assessment form was mailed to 120 King Edward?
The 2018 business assessment notice, and I've checked personally, was in fact mailed to 120 King Edward Street, to Boyd Auto Body. I actually took a picture of it on the assessment department screen if you want to have a look at it.
Okay. Was it filled in and returned?
That's the income and expense questionnaire. What I'm talking about here.
Right.
No, what I'm talking about here is the 2018 business assessment notice.
Right.
Properties will, vacant, property will receive a realty assessment, or sorry, it's technically called a property assessment notice, separately a business assessment notice. The income and expense questionnaire is a completely separate and different matter. The city sent the business assessment notice, not the INE, the business assessment notice to 120 King Edward Street East.
See, and Brad's right on that, because I'm asking for non-compliance here, but it's actually wrong, because Boyd Auto Body at the 120 King Edward, which is what Brad is saying here, and that's my mistake and my judgment, because they're not responsible for that, because the owners are responsible for the income and expense mailers. So that was my mistake, and I do apologize for that.
Okay.
So, now it's hot, I think.
Gentlemen, if you'd
Yep.
be so kind. And Madam?
I was going to say, gentlemen, and it's International Women's Day.
Yes, it is. Thank you, gentlemen and madam. After much deliberation, we are going to deny.
Yeah.
Thank you. If you'd like to proceed with your
Yeah,
evidence,
for sure.
Mr. Frank?
So, just the business ID number is 42947. The total ARV is 158,520, using a total area of 15,031 square feet, and an overall rental rate of $10.55, including occupancy costs. The base rent that we have here is $847, and because the entire area is not air conditioned, we only have an area of 32 cents used for 2,250 square feet for the occupancy cost for that. So total occupancy cost we have is 31,233 to come up with the 158,520. There is a lease in place for this building, the 120 King Edward. Lease started in 2013. It's a 5-year lease for 15,031. At this stage, I'd like to send you to page number 9, giving you an overview of the building. So it's on Route 90. It's just, the subject property is just south of Red River Community College, and it's in between the college and Wellington. The bottom of page 9 shows an overview of where it's located at, with regards to the building and the location. Page 10 shows the same. So what we've done here is that we have, first comparable I have is 15 Marion, also Boyd Auto Body. What we have is we have the rent listed here as, you know what, let me just get my glasses. I apologize for that. So on the first page here, we have the Marion on the rent roll. We're showing an annual rental of $16.50 for 15 Marion. It's in a much superior location to the subject property. Subsequently, it's a much higher rent. 2405 Putnam Highway is my second comparable. We have a commercial rent of $9.28. 3570 Portage Avenue. If I do remember correctly, the rent here is, let me just do the math here, it's at 10,193. Yeah, it says $13 based on my calculations. 20 Lakewood. We have a rent of 12,467. That's showing of $18. And the last one here on 1462 Regent Avenue, we're showing a rent of $14 a square foot. So based on the information that we have located here, for comparables, we're using the $8.47 for the rent. That does seem to be a fair value based on the other comparable points that we have within the city of Winnipeg. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, Mr. Borgstrom?
I do, thank you. Excuse me. Have you had the opportunity to inspect the subject property, the subject premise?
No, I have not.
And you've already acknowledged that each of your comparables are superior?
Yes.
And
In better locations?
in better locations? Would you consider them to be superior in terms of the building itself?
I've never been in the building, so I can't comment on that.
But you certainly included some exterior shots of the subject.
Yep.
And in reviewing that, would you, or can you draw a comparison as to comparability?
Well, this location here is not as in a population dense area, it's more of an industrial park.
Talking about the building
The
itself.
building. The building, I can't comment on it. These void buildings throughout the city of Winnipeg seem to be built in the same manner and the same sort of brick, a lot of them are the brick facades. And they do seem, no, this one seems similar. Because I look at this brick building here on, the subject property is a brick building on page 9. And then I think another one of their comparables is the one on Portage Avenue, also has the brick facade on the outside of it.
Which page are you looking at?
I'm looking at page 12. So page 12 and the subject property are very similar, the other ones are not.
Okay, well, let's take a look at your comparison now on page 12. That particular property, and I'm certainly familiar with it because we've worked it for a number of years now, represented the owners for a number of years now. That property has multiple doors at grade level for access and egress of vehicles. And would that also be true of all of your other comparables?
I can't comment on that.
Well, let's take a look at them one at a time. If we look at page 11, at the top, that's your comparison on Marion.
No.
That's difficult to tell there, but if you look at the left-hand side of the picture, it has the appearance of being multiple doors, and that's a shopping center, the Dominion Shopping Center at the foot of the bridge on Main Street. You'd agree with that's at grade level, correct?
Yep.
And multiple doors?
Yep.
So the one right beneath it at 2405 Pembina, again, you have, I'm gonna say 13 doors at a minimum, also at grade level, correct?
Yep.
And we've already talked about page 12. If you look at page 13, that's also, you can see there, minimum of 7 doors there,
Yep.
also at grade level. Okay. And then if we look at the bottom of page 13 on Regent, you've got a minimum of 4 overhead doors for access. Smaller building, so you would expect something smaller, right?
Yep.
That's that, that particular property, is 2,800 square feet, and so on 2,800 square feet, you've got 4 doors.
Yep.
Subject property is 15,000?
15,000 square feet. But if we look at it, I think on page 9, there's 2 doors at the front. And at the bottom of page 10, there's a loading dock, and there's access to the back.
2 doors, okay, so at the bottom of page 9, 2 doors at the front.
Yeah, that's the front. These are the front ones.
Do you think that this building is grade level, or do you think it's an elevated slab?
I haven't been to the building, so I can't comment on
From
it.
your pictures that you provided? Don't know?
It looks flat. I've driven down Route 90. It's not, there's a lot of hills on Route 90.
So, and you indicated that this was up just south of Red River College. Isn't it fair to say that it's just north of St. Matthews?
It's closer, no. It's a lot closer to the airport than, it's a lot closer to Wellington and Sargent than it is to, oh, you know what, you're right. You're right, you know what I was thinking? I was thinking of, I apologize, Brad. I was thinking of where the Tim Hortons is, right where it separates, because there's that sort of separation there as well. You're all right, it's closer to St. Matthews. It's actually in between Ellis and St. Matthews.
Those are my questions, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Lynn?
How old is this building?
If I'm looking, we have it built in 1970.
1970. And your comparables? Do you have information on the age?
No, I do not. I do not have their age.
And just, I think I heard you say you have not inspected the
No.
property. Okay, thank you.
Questions, Max?
No questions.
I have no questions. If you'd like to proceed.
Thank you. I'm going to give you the Coles Notes version of this. I took a look, there is a lease in place on the property. It was a renewal in 2013 at $8 a square foot. This property was originally an industrial warehouse type of property on an elevated slab. And I'm going to take you through a couple of pictures that show the information a little clearer than the assessor's overhead shot. So if we start on page 2, this would be the same or a similar view as the assessor's page 9 at the bottom. And when he talks about 2 doors there, you actually see on the right-hand side of this picture a ramp to allow vehicle access into into the structure itself. This is the only way to get vehicles in and out of this elevated slab building. You can see there on the left-hand side, or sort of the left center, stairs going up. That's not the loading door, it's not vehicle access. That's I'll call it a people door into the property. And there you can see the stairs. And so this property, and I'll show you some more pictures in a moment. This property is very different from all of the assessor's comparables. When I took a look at this property initially, I took a look at the lease in place, and I could tell you that the most recent, actually I think it was the last day of the hearings for the 2018 realties, I did an auto body shop on Kimberley. So I took a look at a bunch of comparisons of auto body shops, retail-like locations, high traffic, Pembina Highway, Portage Avenue, all have higher rents, and that's reflected in their retail type of location. There are also some other lower ones. The one I was looking at in particular as a subject property was on Kimberley, lower traffic, but it was at grade level. In this particular case, this is a very awkward setup, and if we take a look at our very last page, second last page, number 9, there you can see around the side of the building, and this is the view that you can see on the assessor's page 10 at the bottom. Just for comparison, when you get down at street level, you can see that it's a covered loading dock. Again, it's dock level, not grade level. There's no way to get vehicles in and out. This is a 15,000 square foot building that this department has as a vehicle service garage. It's an auto body shop. They replace glass and do auto repairs there. It's important to have vehicle access, and you see that in all of their other locations that the assessor has provided, where they have multiple bays. Similarly, all of those other locations, and I neglected to ask the assessor, but land building ratio also plays a part in this particular type of business, because they need a place to park the vehicles when they're coming in for repairs and when they're waiting for pickup after being processed, or waiting for paint to finish curing. So the information we show you on page 4, this land area is 35,169 square feet. Gives you a land building ratio of 2.34 to 1. For garage type properties, for vehicle service related properties, that's on the low end. And so when all of that is considered, I took a look at the lease in place, and we show that detail on our page 10. That's the last page in our brief. Property actually leased at $8 a square foot, and you'll see there that the lease start date, that's a renewal in March of 2013. Not very far removed from the reference date, and certainly within the time frame considered generally for this reassessment. You'll see there that the lease rate is $8 a square foot. It's my submission that is an appropriate rent for this property, given the shortcomings in terms of a vehicle service garage for this property, the lack of doors for this type of business, the lack of land area for this kind of business. If you look at the assessor's picture on page 10, you can also, at the bottom, you can also see how tight the land area is there. for customer and vehicle parking. We've included some overhead shots in ours as well. That certainly demonstrates how tight this is in terms of its land area, and so our submission is that $8 is a more appropriate rent to apply to this premise. So we go through the summary on page 6. We've applied $8 a square foot to the 15,031 square feet of premise area. There's no disagreement with the occupancy costs. So we're looking for a reduction based on $8 a square foot to 155,520 $155,520. Save and accept questions, that is our submission.
Thank you.
So is it mandatory for auto body shops to have a very high land-to-building ratio for them to be successful businesses?
Well, we're not talking about the success of the business, we're talking about what would be an appropriate rent for
Okay.
this property, and given those particular features, as you would adjust on the realty end of it,
Yeah.
given those particular features, the $8 rent is an appropriate rent to apply here.
Okay. So are you familiar with Winter's Auto Body?
No,
No, on Arlington,
no.
between William? Well, for the board's acknowledgement, it has a very low amount of space because it's a larger auto body shop. And it's my understanding and my belief, when you have buildings that are much larger, they park a lot of the cars inside.
Is that owner occupied or rented?
It is owner occupied.
And so we can't judge a rent off of that.
No, but what you're advocating though, is that you're saying that auto body shops can't successfully exist.
That's not what I said. What I said was that you need to adjust for all of those factors. You have an elevated slab here. You've got a single ramp going up to the elevated floor level.
But what are the doors on page 8 though, on the side of page 8, on your brief? Because to me, we're not seeing this full picture here, because on page 8 on your brief,
Right.
and then, because this is,
So
and I haven't been in this building,
So stop for a second, and which picture are you looking at?
so page 8
Right.
on your side, and page 10,
So page 8, top or bottom picture.
bottom picture.
Okay, and at the bottom picture,
Yeah,
and you can see that on our page 2 from the street level. There you can see the ramp on page 8, and you see a much clearer view of the ramp on
Yeah.
page 2.
yeah,
And then you see the front doors, and I call it a people door. You see the
Yeah.
stairs going up,
Yeah.
elevated slab, and that's the picture at the bottom of page 2. And there you can see at the top of page 2, there is no door there other than the people door on the right-hand side of the building in the top picture.
okay, but on page 8 of your brief,
Right,
okay, so you clearly acknowledge what was on page 2, but if we go towards the south of the building, in the shade,
right.
Okay.
And we show that on our page 9.
okay,
And there you can, this is dock level loading, this is not vehicle access.
okay,
Trucks back in, it's dock level loading,
okay,
okay?
okay,
So when you actually look down at the details,
yeah. Well, yeah, well, that's fine, yeah, but, okay, because.
very different from their other operations
Yeah,
in the city.
yeah, and I acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Brad, you do have to understand, you presented this document today. I did not see this document, so I'm sort of learning as we're going through here, right? So the assessors, I just wanted to make sure I had a good understanding of it. Okay, so, but would you believe that this would have value for moving parts and storage areas, to have a loading dock like this, as opposed to being a superior? Because I understand there's limitations with this property
Actually,
with one door.
Actually, no, because when you look at all of their other facilities, they're all grade level entrances.
Yeah.
Parts come in, they don't stock a supply of parts when they're doing vehicle repairs. It's on an as-needed basis, so they'll order a front quarter panel, they'll order a hood for a vehicle, so there's no need to store the parts until they're actually needed to repair the vehicle, so it's not an advantage for this type of occupant.
So But as a storage, well,
Because this was a warehouse, that's why the loading doors are there. Now, the ones in the shaded area that you referred to, those are still dock level loading doors.
yeah,
And the other side, and we showed it on our bottom, on our picture on page 2, that was also a dock level loading door at one time, when it was an industrial property, that they had to, assuming a landlord's cost, install a ramp to allow vehicle access, because otherwise it wouldn't be possible in this location. So single door access here.
okay. And do you have any market rents?
No, the lease in place, in my view, and based on, and I indicated, I did an auto body shop in Kimberley in the last hearing, February 9th, I think it was. It certainly falls within a range. I'm aware of another Boyd location on Scurfield, much better location, $875 a square foot roughly. So there are other Boyd locations, that's an arm's length lease. So there are a variety of rents. In this particular case, with the physical characteristics of this building, $8 a square foot is a very good rent for industrial use, and it's all they're able to achieve in this location, given the physical shortcomings of the property.
No other questions, thank you.
Thank you. Lynn?
I don't have any real questions, but I am seeking a clarification.
Okay.
On your page 2,
Yeah.
you have a requested ARV of 151,500. And on page 6, you have a requested ARV of 155,520. So I'm just seeking some clarification.
Why is that?
Your numbers,
Oh,
your
you know what?
numbers work
Yeah,
down
no.
to,
You know what, let me.
You know what, I could answer that.
I think
for
there's
you.
an air
Air
conditioning
conditioning
error,
issue.
yeah, so,
It's air conditioning, because the air conditioning, if you look at my brief,
yeah.
Right.
the air conditioning is only
I
2230.
lost my pen.
oh, okay,
2230,
Yeah.
yeah,
I,
So let me do a quick calculation.
okay,
for
no,
you.
that's fine if,
yeah.
Yeah, so there will be, oh, I have a pencil. Found it. Okay. So the air conditioning, it's separated up, okay, so we got 2250 square feet, not 1531. Let me just do the quick calculations for you.
I think that takes it out pretty well.
Yeah.
it's in here, okay, let me see.
Yeah, it works out to 151,481,
Okay, and so rounded up
Rounded,
to,
yeah. so that if we divide 12.
151.5 would be the rounded.
Okay,
Yeah,
because
sorry.
that one little piece is,
Yeah.
has no air conditioning. Okay.
Well, most of the building doesn't, just
Oh,
the,
okay.
sort of the customer area,
Okay,
if you will.
thank you.
Sorry.
That's okay, I just thought I better ask.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Max?
No, the same questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Me too, but I have a couple more. Mr. Borgstrom, does this building operate differently from the other Boyd
It-
facilities?
It has the same, I'll call them activities within the structure, vehicle repair, windshield replacement, ding removal, that sort of thing. But in this particular structure, it's very different, the structure itself is very different from what they typically require for their businesses.
Because-
In this particular case, they've made this building work with the ramp, but it has just the one entrance. Certainly.
So that's just what I wanted to clarify. There is actually one entrance in for vehicles when they are
Yes.
being serviced?
Yes.
Okay. Other than that loading dock?
The loading docks vehicles can't get into, that's.
No, but they
yeah.
have the loading dock though.
Yes.
That, and that's the, sort of
Yes.
for the warehouse.
Yeah, also
portion.
at dock level, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Was this building originally built for Boyd?
No, no, it was built in 1970, I'm not sure when they occupied it. I think the lease says about 1991 is when the lease started. Yeah, if we look at page 10, you'll see there that the tenant move-in date was 1991. So from 1970 to 1991, it was an industrial type warehouse. It's not unusual to see, in particular along King Edward, elevated slabs. I'm familiar with a number of them, having worked them, where there are elevated slab structures, typically multi-tenanted, along this, and in this area.
Just out of curiosity, what was the purpose of these elevated slab buildings?
That's a good question. It makes loading easier, certainly for industrial purposes, loading it on, you back the truck in, things go out. But other than that, yeah.
Railway distribution centers.
Yeah, modern construction, what you'll typically find is everything is at grade level. But the loading facilities will have some excavation done, so there's a ramp going down, so that effectively it's dock level, but it actually comes out or is unloaded at ground level.
Right.
And so that's the more modern design. This was, I think, a way around it in the olden days. 1970, you'll typically find this kind of design, 60s vintage, but 1970 in there somewhere.
Mr. Froelich, I just want to redirect
Yep.
to you for a moment. Your
Yep.
comparisons of your other Boyd
Yep.
properties, do you know the years of those buildings?
No, I do not.
Do you know if any of them were built specifically for Boyd?
Yeah. No, well, I know, no, I do not. No. I think maybe the one on Lakewood would be one specifically done, but it has a much higher rent. Because that's a relatively newer building, probably built within the past 20 years. The Region one? Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. And Mr. Bergstrom, were you at this building?
I have not actually inspected this property.
Thank you. Any questions?
Sure, thank you.
We still have to do.
Oh,
Taylor, but that's not with Mr.
Yeah,
Bergstrom.
yeah.
that's not with Mr. Bergstrom.
Yeah.
No?
No, you're done.
No, yeah, well, and I don't, I know it wasn't asked, but I don't feel the urge to some need.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
oh, no.
You
I'm
don't,
good, yeah.
okay, fine.
I think we've logged this story.
Usually when people want a summation, they're, eager. On that other property, we can,
Okay, well, we'll wait for initial.
yes.
Oh, you can carry on, it's a public hearing. So. Think.
The reason built up is so that on one side, it was at the boxcar, and on the other side, you have the trucks.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
We'll, we can check more of that too.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. And take a look at the one that we talked about. I think it's 191 Broadway. I think that's what when he's
I'll
building.
take a look at it.
Yeah.
Imagine St. Matthews,
Oh, okay.
where Recip is now, and our building.
You have to tell me about it on our walk back.
Yeah, I've made this walk on colder days than this.
For sure. Well, what's encouraging is that the days are longer and the sun's stronger.
Yeah.
That's what I like.
Okay, thank you, and good morning.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you.
And we're just gonna
Yep.
hear that last one.
Yep, for sure. So, for the property that I had, file number 174914, 1330 Taylor. Business assessment ID number is 36381. We had a total ARV of 111,180. The premise area is 6562, and overall square foot value for the rent is 1694 plus occupancy costs. There's a Mr. Lube, a car wash, and a gas station kiosk there, or retail component. I'd like to recommend reducing the value to 108,240. And then there's just a slight adjustments on some of the rents.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any questions from the panel? Thank you very much.
You're welcome, thank you.
And that concludes our meeting.